Hello and welcome to another edition of 310 to Left. Tom, Caron, and Alex Speier with you. Even though the offseason is here, we carry on, and there is no offseason for our guest today. President and CEO of the Boston Red Sox, Sam Kennedy. We should be here talking about the first game of the postseason. For the third straight year, we're not. And I know that as a guy who grew up here cheering for this team and who now is in charge of this team, that's not acceptable to you. And we'll dig into some of the public perception and all of that. But let's just begin with how you feel. And again, it's been a couple of weeks realistically, a few days mathematically, but now the finality of knowing there's no playoff baseball in Boston for the third straight year. How do you react to that?
It's frustrating and disappointing, especially when there was a feeling here yesterday at the ballpark, frankly all weekend, that none of us wanted this to end. I think this team, there weren't a lot of expectations outside the walls of our clubhouse and our front office, but we actually had significantly higher hopes and expectations internally, just given a lot of the things that we had seen with these young guys taking the next step, some of the additions that we had brought from the outside. So we were very optimistic. And yeah, we shouldn't be talking about looking forward to next season this time of year. This is a time of year we should be talking about who's starting game one in a postseason series. And that's what we have to get back to. That's what we're committed to. And I do think that Alex Cora said it well, that we sort of feel like the struggles of the last 2 years are behind us. And it's time to turn the page and really focus on building upon this great young core of players. Again, long way to go, but it does feel like we're building something special here, and it's time to take that next step. It really is time.
You know, there are a lot of things you can look at this season that I think you can feel better about where things are. But the other side of that is you're 10 games up at the All-Star break. You make a much more defined effort to go after help for now, right? You trade away prospect capital to bring in primarily pitchers who are supposed to help. It doesn't work out. Does that make the last 5-6 weeks that much tougher because you actually were in a position coming into August that was probably better than the last couple of years?
For sure. I mean, there was a period of time during the middle of the season when we were talking about winning the division, which is where we should be. I hate this notion that, we're focused on just doing enough to, make it look like we're trying to win or just do enough to get into the postseason. You really don't want to be in that 83 to 87 win territory because it's so dangerous. You look at what's happening today with the Mets and the Braves. You really need to build a roster and have a team that is built to win that division. That's where we want to get to is talking about winning the American League East and setting ourselves up for a bye, let alone just sort of sneaking into it. Now, we've won the World Series coming in from a wild card, but really that needs to be the goal. The focus needs to be on what can we do this offseason to get this team in a position where we have a chance to win the American League East and get the Red Sox back to where they belong.
This past offseason, you talk now about winning the division being a goal, which is, last year you talked about the goal of we have to get back to winning. This year, I think you're being more precise about it in terms of talking about the need to win the AL East and not just the postseason as a goal. The moves that you guys made last offseason, there had been expectations that were throttled up, if you will, you obviously signed Giolito, but that was to a relatively short-term deal, staying away from some of the top pitchers on the market, not all of them. You also made a number of trades or moves that were with the future in mind, whether it was trading John Schreiber in spring training for a minor league pitcher, whether it was signing Liam Hendriks with some of the money that you had left over to a deal that was mostly going to pay off in 2025, and signing some of the long-term deals, right? There was a lot of capital that was invested beyond this season. Do you feel like you did? Do you feel like you honored the goal last offseason of pursuing a division title, or do you feel like too much was pushed towards what was invested for the long term? And I should also mention Sale and Vaughn Grissom, right? Because that's a glaring one.
Yeah, I think the simple answer is we didn't do enough. When you finish 81 and 81, you're 500. It's not where we want to be. So no, we didn't do enough. We didn't honor our commitment, which is to fielding a team that is built for the postseason. That's on us. We did do some things that were geared more long-term in nature. Hopefully hopefully those moves will help us out in 2025, 26, and beyond. Hardest thing in baseball, hardest thing in any sports operation is to balance the near term with the long term. And look, we are blessed with the best fan base in baseball. We are blessed with high expectations. We're blessed with incredible support, and we are going to never take that for granted. And hopefully, we make the moves this coming off season that put us in that position where, again, we're talking about the AL East Division champions as opposed to a team that fell short of postseason play.
Do you expect to consider a different variety of moves? And if so, like, what does that entail? And I'll take it back to the level of there is a large belief that the rotation was really good, but that you do not have kind of the clear number one starter that would enter into a postseason series. Like, that's the dude in game one, right? Obviously, you guys have discussed right-handed bats, but like, are you guys, yes, how different will the kind of moves be that you consider this offseason, and can you offer kind of clarity to fans about what they might expect?
Yeah, there's been a very affirmative strategy the last 3, 4, or 5 years to ferociously protect and hold on to prospects. One of the things we really needed to do during that period was build up our farm system, our minor league operation, our infrastructure work. But it's too much to ask our fans to care that much about our infrastructure and our farm system. Our fans care about what's happening at the big league level and winning games at the major league level and getting into the postseason. So I think you're going to see a sense of urgency around improving what is an organization at the big league level with great building blocks. But again, talk now is hollow and sort of cheap. We just have to go and do the right things that put us in that position to push towards 90, 95 wins, so you know that you're in a spot where you're in the postseason. Now, it's easy to say that; it's much harder to do it. But you'll see us, as Craig Breslow said today at the press conference. I think you'll see us exploring all avenues, from free agency to trades, and also looking at some of these guys that are homegrown, that took the ball every 5 days. And really took the next step in their pitching development. We have not done a good job with pitching development, and actually it's my lifetime as a Red Sox fan, if I go all the way back to being a kid growing up here. And it was great to see what Tanner Houck did and Brian Bayo did and Cutter Crawford did. And I think those guys really stepping up and getting to the next level. Garrett Whitlock grabbed me yesterday after the game and said, I'm starting tomorrow. Like, I cannot wait to get back into the postseason, and there he is right now. So there's again, it's hard to say when you had a 500 season, but there is a very positive feeling in that clubhouse, and in terms of what's possible in the future. Not about what we did or didn't do this year, but about where this organization is going. It's also really critical that we've got stability in baseball operations now. Craig Breslow is here; it's going to be here for the long term. Alex Cora is here; it's going to be here for the long term. And having that stability, I believe, is critical. When we've had success here with the Red Sox, we've had stability in our baseball operation, and that's on us. And we've gotten away from that. Again, that's on us. But we have it now, and hopefully good results will follow.
Part of waiting for that next generation of prospects, and we saw some of them this year, obviously, and others like Duran, who's been here a little while, kind of blossom into that next step, a superstar, a top 10 player in the American League. But you've kind of lost some of the star players of the past, and you're trying to rebuild that, obviously. But as a business, first and foremost, you're trying to win as many games as you can. But in Boston, do you also need to pay attention to marquee names? Like, you hear it, I hear it from fans. Like, I don't know that many of these players, and it wasn't that long ago where you knew these players. You're trying to rebuild a winning team. How much does that factor into the equation, though, as well? Like, is that something you've learned? Talk a little about the 20 years here, 23 years here. The difference between, winning is important, and it's first and foremost, but where does that second part play in? The sort of resonating with fans between player and season ticket holder.
Yeah, if you have a winning club, by definition, you're going to have star players because they emerge on those teams. I mean, I remember 2013, not too much was made of that offseason, coming from 12 into 13, and I think people were sort of rolling their eyes at some of the moves that we made. We all know what happened. Look, we Boston, if you have success, star players emerge. We saw the emergence of Jaron Duran. We saw what Willie Abreu might be capable of doing. We saw what we were missing when Trevor Story went down. Obviously, Rafi grinded through a really, really tough year where he wasn't feeling great. But yes, the short answer is you can't win in this game without star players. They've always been a critical element. I guarantee you, as we get into this next month, which, by the way, October is the worst month of the year if you're not playing baseball. It's the best month of the year if you are playing. I can't, it's like a car crash. I can't not watch. I will be watching every night, and I guarantee you the teams that are pouring champagne on each other will be the teams where star performers do what star performers do in the postseason. And absolutely, the good news is we have some guys who are taking that next step and emerging as the Red Sox stars of the future.
You also mentioned the stability of having Craig Breslow here now, of Alex Cora getting locked up. Take us back into that Alex Cora conversation a little bit. You've always been upfront about how you feel about him, but we didn't know until that announcement came how he really felt about the future here. How much of the long-term plan factored into his decision? Not just that you gave him money, and that's the business side of it. But talking to him in the months ahead, he also wanted to know where things were going. How important was all that?
He mentioned today, the business side, and can't show him your cards, and I knew his cards. This guy was meant to be the manager of the Boston Red Sox. This guy was meant to be in Boston. I knew without him telling me he wanted to be here, and Craig Breslow knew that he wanted to be here. What was really important was that Brez make the decision, make the determination on his timetable. We, in ownership and executive management, created a difficult situation. We made a change in baseball operations leadership this time last year, leaving Alex in a lame duck situation. The way we tried to handle that was to just be open, direct, and honest the entire time with AC that, look, this is going to be Brez's decision. He's going to make it on his timetable. And that's exactly the way it played out, thankfully. But again, this is one of the hardest jobs in all of baseball. And I've lived here through Grady Little, through Tito, through Bobby, through John Farrell, now through Alex Cora. Alex is as good as they come. He is extraordinary from a communication, from a human perspective, in-game strategy, getting the most out of his players, dealing with the media, understanding that our entire organization, whether you work in accounting, you work in ticket sales, you're just as important to this organization as someone who wears a uniform. And these are the things that really matter. And so I'm so glad that we called his bluff and we got him to sign up long term. And credit to Craig Breslow who made the decision. He took his time, and he has a process. Craig is very process driven, and he went through his process, and it worked out.
Of course, Alex got you guys to buy high, so shrewd businessman that he is, right? That was kind of, you guys were talking over the All-Star break. Things did not go great for you guys after the extension was signed. As you think about what transpired over the last couple of months of the season, do you feel like that was a personnel issue with regards to roster depth, roster talent? Was it a problem? Was it a problem of managing and coaching and taking advantage of the roster that was there? What did you see down the stretch?
We just were we were just thin. We didn't have the horses all across the diamond to get us where we need to go, and that's something we have to look really carefully at this offseason because it's plagued us the last several years. Again, we haven't had a postseason run since 2021, and the last couple years we've fallen off at the end, especially coming out of the All-Star break. So whether it's physical skills, mental skills, we got to look at everything, and we got to. It's not an excuse, but we got to stay healthy. I mean, my old mentor Larry Lucchino used to say, like, I'll tell you how we're going to be when you tell me how healthy we're going to be. It's so true. You need good health in baseball. We didn't have it this year, but a lot of teams didn't have health. So we need to be deeper. And we'll examine that carefully.
Yeah, Lucchino was also a deep depth guy, right?
Yes, Earl Weaver, yes.
Along the, so following up on that, In terms of, a year ago, or in January, I suppose, you said the build will dictate the spend, right? And in terms of where the Red Sox are organizationally, you're in a different building spot, not only with the emergence of players like Caron, the steps forward by the rotation members, but also, obviously, you've got some really good players in AAA. So where does that leave you in terms of do you anticipate different spending behavior? And I'll layer on top of that, since I imagine that you're going to elude that question, and ask, do you anticipate different risk-taking behavior this offseason based on where the build is?
Yeah, I do. I think the second part of your question, in terms of risk-taking and being bold and being creative and aggressive, had many conversations with Brez and AC and John Henry, Tom Werner, and Mike Gordon the last couple weeks. And the consistent theme, especially from John, has been building blocks. The building blocks are here, and we need to take advantage of that. And it's that's what makes it exciting. I think, honestly, I think that factored in to Alex's decision. Brez aggressively pursued an extension with him. I'm not sure there was any amount of money that would have resonated with Alex if he didn't feel like this organization was in a position to win. I'm not sure Brez, with all the conversation about who's going to be the next general manager of the Boston Red Sox, I don't think Craig Breslow would have come here if he hadn't have thought we were going to be in a position to win more World Series championships. So we have a long way to go, but that's the goal and that's the mission.
Attendance was not far off last year, more or less. But compare, let's go pre-pandemic, right? Attendance is down. You're probably 3,000-4,000 a game below where you were. How much of that is the industry? How much of that is the concern with fans that you haven't made the playoffs in long enough? And how do you get them back? How do you get Fenway Park, like you said, it felt great Sunday. You know what I mean? There were moments, and Alex Cora said, if we can get to September, in the hunt, this place is going to feel like Fenway again. They didn't quite get there.
Yep.
How do you get it back?
Well, listen, nothing can replace winning. So playing meaningful games in September that are setting you up for hopefully a deep run in October is the number one way to sell tickets. I started my baseball career in 1993 in the New York Yankees front office, and I'll never forget Frank Swain, who ran the ticketing department, grabbed me. He said, I said, "Hey, Frank, where's the marketing department?" And he said, "Kid, come here." And he grabbed me, took me out from the underbelly of Yankee Stadium, pointed on the field. He said, "See those guys out there? I mean, you mean the ones with the uniforms?" He said, "That's the marketing department." So it was a lesson that always stuck with me. So yeah, we don't win baseball games, but you know what? Don't underestimate just the fact that our fans are so smart. They know what's going on here. They can see what's happening. They know we have the building blocks of a very competitive team. They know the needs that we have. They know the types of moves that we need to make. And so I think it's an exciting time. Baseball itself, attendance was up significantly last year, and it was up slightly this year, off of a big base the year before, so that's impressive. So the sport is in a very healthy, good place, and that bodes well for Red Sox fans. And yeah, we got to sell those last 3,000 tickets per game, so we're packed every single night. Believe me, we're grateful for the 33,000 people that came here night in and night out for what ultimately was a 500 team. That's reflective of the best fans in baseball.
When you come back here in the spring, the Netflix series will be out. What has that experience been like compared to what you thought maybe coming in? And what do you think that'll mean to the team next year when that is running and streaming and people are sort of dialing into the Red Sox in a different way?
Look, I think it was an incredibly important thing for a Major League Baseball team to do. Perhaps we were the dumb ones that agreed to do it. It started with John Henry and Rob Manfred and the CEO of Netflix at a conference together 4 years ago where the idea was pitched, and John said, "Yeah, we'll consider that." I think the reaction was, "You will?" To say they were embedded was an understatement. They were everywhere all season long. Ironically, they left us for a handful of days in September. That was probably the biggest controversy of the season. Why? Players were upset. You know, look, this is a grind. We're in there. They see you every day. They see me every day. We're all in it. And so wow, that is not the direction I thought that the Netflix coverage was going to go. The players, the culture in baseball is, look, we're all in. If we're all in, you need to be all in. I'm so excited for this project because our fans, I just think of myself as a 10, 12-year-old fan. If I could have seen what it was like to travel with the Red Sox or be in a car ride on the way home with Tanner Houck or Brian Bayo or Jaron Duran, or I don't even know what the footage is. We don't have any editorial control. It's a little scary. Yeah. We'll see how this show plays out, but I do think it's going to expose what an incredible grind the 162-game Major League Baseball season is. I think it's going to tell great stories about our incredible players and the personalities in that clubhouse. It is very, I hope, player focus. At least that was the idea. They did not spend a lot of time with cameras roaming around offices watching, people send emails or do Excel spreadsheets. So I hope it's very player focused, but we'll see what it looks like.
So in the last few days, Alex Cora has been talking about how he sees 2024 as being the last struggle. So there's the Netflix title, right? The last struggle.
The last dance. The last struggle.
I like it.
I guess it's worth asking, though, this has been a multi-year struggle, right? Like, this is 5 out of 6 years that you guys have missed the postseason. The 1 year that you did make it, arguably, was there were some pleasant surprises for you guys in that. Do you think that, not just for 2025, but, are the Red Sox entering, fans care about how you guys go about roster construction, team building. Do you think that for the longer haul, not just as a, not just kind of as a one-off change of course, that you guys have now entered into a different phase beginning in this offseason?
I think the team at the major league level has entered a different phase because of player development and because of the emergence of some of these young stars that we talked about, but we're a long way from there. So I don't think the organization has entered a different phase in terms of philosophy or desire to win. That is always there. But I do think we are poised to have a great couple years in front of us. But again, we have a lot of work to do.
Well, Sam, we appreciate the time. It's great to see you.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for another great year, even though we didn't get to where we wanted to go.
Unlike Netflix, we were here every day. Don't forget. Sam Kennedy, President and CEO of the Boston Red Sox, with us. This edition of 310 to Left. Thanks for checking it out. We'll catch you next time.